Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NextGen Planners podcast. My name is Dan, and I'm the head of community experience here at NextGen Planners. And today, I'm very, very, very happy to be joined all the way from the US, and I think it's Atlanta, but please correct me if I'm wrong, Jacqueline, by Jacqueline Schadeck. How are you doing today, Jacqueline?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Excited
No,
to be here.
it's an absolute pleasure. And I should have checked this before we started recording, but am I getting your surname right there?
Yep, you
Good.
got it.
Get in, because I've got that wrong in the past and then I felt like a right idiot. So it's a good job that we got it right today. So like I said, we've been joined by the from the US by Jacqueline today. So it's a real pleasure to have her on the show. And for anyone who doesn't know what she's up to, she's a financial planner, author, and creator from Atlanta in the United States. And so what we do with everyone, Jacqueline, is just ask this same question, because everyone gets up to different things every single day. But can you just tell us about what your day looks like? What do you get up to on a daily basis?
Good question. I remember getting into the financial planning industry and wondering, what does a financial advisor do all day? And when I got into the field and I started learning, I was like, oh, okay, so financial planners have a lot to do with the market, what's going on with the economy, keeping up with all that news, right? But then also balancing that with client activity and servicing clients. So the way I look at my day is it has a proactive piece and it has a reactive piece, right? And so on the proactive piece, that is me getting information, right? Making sure that I'm understanding what's going on with the economy and everything, and also being proactive with my clients and reaching out to them and saying, hey, here's this information, but also being reactive, right? So there's a part of our job where we're just reacting to client needs and what's going on in the world. And so my day-to-day is pretty much it's not super exciting. I try to make it pretty sexy for the gram, but it's regular. It's regular.
That's I was actually what I was going to ask you about next, about your Instagram, but just because that is, I mean, that's very, what you were just mentioning there is much more kind of hands-on than, so we say, a traditional type of financial advisor. Certainly here in the UK, there's still financial advisors here in the UK now who only see or communicate with their clients like every 2 years or something like that. And from my perspective, that's definitely not enough. But who is it that you work with? Like, do you have a kind of like niche or a specialism or a kind of person that you would describe as your ideal client?
Yeah, so I work mainly with first generation millionaires. So people who are new to money and their unique needs are very specific. They're very different. There's a lot around just acceptance of money, right? And understanding like, oh, okay, I do deserve to have, wealth, and I do deserve to have nice things and be able to take holiday or vacation. And so working with first generation millionaires has been something that's really close to my heart because I am one of them. My family was one of them. And so that's really, really who I work with.
It's good. It's really good. I think, yeah, there's a lot of mindset stuff in there and kind of self-limiting beliefs and stuff like that that come into it, isn't it? So
Mhm.
it's really, I mean, you talked about the gram there. For anyone who doesn't get the reference, that's Instagram. And you are very active on there. I mean, I've certainly seen at least a few posts from you most days. Some days, obviously, there's less. Some days, there's more. And your account is Jacqueline Plans. So,
Mhm.
and firstly, anyone who's in the audience who wants to check it out, go over there after you've listened to this podcast. But secondly, I'm really interested. I was speaking to another financial planner this week on a podcast as well, actually, and he gets 90% of his clients from social media. Now, that's not limited to Instagram. That's pretty much all of them. Just by working hard and just by putting great content out there, which is what you do as well. But I'm interested to see from your perspective, how much success have you had personally from creating content on social media, from both a getting clients perspective, but also from kind of communicating with those existing clients that you've already got as well?
So it's an interesting balance. And I have a digital advisor success accelerator because I want to share with other people the mistakes I made in the beginning of getting on social media and learning how to pull people from social media into your business, right? Into your ecosystem. And so when I got started, I didn't have the entire ecosystem set up, and I kind of figured it out along the way. Like, okay, how can I make money from social media without being necessarily an influencer? And so with that, there's a lot that goes into creating that system and that structure. But I know that it is also key that you are understanding your purpose. And if you are trying to get people off of the app and into your business, what is your main go-to system for that? Like, how is that structured for you? That's really key.
And on the success side, like, how successful has that been for you in getting new clients? Did it as like, I know it's a work in progress, but do you find that you get new clients from social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Social media is really, really powerful.
Mm.
Literally, almost everybody is on there, right? They have billions of users, and there's different platforms, of course, that are better for attracting ideal clients than others. But with any profile, with any platform, you can figure out a system that will bring the clients that you want into your business. And it's really the best way to do it in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely is. I think I mean, we put a poll out recently on social media. I've talked about this in another podcast as well, about where most financial planners in the UK get their new clients from. I don't think it's a surprise. Like, I think it was like 95% of them get them from existing referrals, and then hardly anyone put social media. And I think it's quite tempting for them to therefore say, therefore I shouldn't be on social media, or I shouldn't be using it. And I think if we switch that mindset, if we flip that mindset and think, the reason I'm not getting any clients from social media is because I'm not using it correctly. If I did use it correctly, imagine how many more clients I could bring in, or imagine how much influence I could have on the world. And I think it's mainly just that people aren't, again, I don't mean this as an insult for anyone, but I think perhaps is that people aren't working hard enough to understand what social media can actually do for you. I think there's still that kind of mindset of it's a personal thing and you should only use it to be on there with your friends and things like that. Whereas if we can switch it and see it as an actual marketing tool, they're the kind of people who are really, really, like you, for instance, and some of the other financial planners I've seen in the US, those guys are really, really taking social media seriously and are therefore getting some success from it, which is good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Just kind of flipping the mindset. Because I think the reason why most people aren't seeing a lot of clients from social media is because they don't have a system for it, right? They haven't taken it seriously to say, oh, this is how I'm going to get new clients for my business. They're just like, oh, okay, well, it is what it is. And it's like, okay, that's probably the most underutilized tool in your business.
Absolutely is. And I mean, when you say a system there as well, by the way, a system could even be, I think you would probably agree with this, as simple as just promising yourself that you're going to do one post every day or something like that, or something, just some kind of procedure that makes sure that you stay consistent. Because
Yeah.
consistency is, I think you would probably agree with this as well, consistency is like one of the biggest things. With a lot of people post heavily for like 3 weeks and then leave it quiet for 3 months, and then they wonder why their audience doesn't resonate with it. And it's a bit, the answer's there, it's just they can't see it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they can't trust you. If you don't show up regularly, then they don't trust you. And that's a problem. You have to be able to build trust with them, obviously. And so they need to see that you're showing up consistently. And the amazing thing about the way that the digital world works is, for every seminar that you used to put on at a restaurant, you had to show up for that. You had to physically show up, plan it, buy the dinner. You don't have to do that online. You can set an entire system in place that auto posts for you, and you don't have to do anything. So there's really no reason to not do it.
No, and I think, I mean, we'll move on from the social media point in a second, but we're both quite passionate about this, aren't we? But repurposing of content is something that I don't see many financial planners doing either. And you do this really well. But like other financial planners, for instance, they post something once and they think that everything that they post has got to be fresh or created yesterday. And instead, if you look at your library of content or look at your stuff that you've created in the past and just take little snippets out of each, or just take bits out, or just even post it again, you'll be amazed at how much of a difference that makes for consistency, for people who resonate with your message, for new followers, everything. Like I don't see many financial planners doing that. I think that's probably a big thing for people to do as well. Like you said, you
Yeah,
do it really well.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah. So also well, I'm going to say you launched this in 2022, but you launched it this year, we spoke about this last time we talked, which was the 45 day, sorry, which is very specific, inner circle mentorship, which again, I'm just cribbing this from your website. I'd be interested to get it from your perspective. It's there to help people increase their net worth and build a 6-figure portfolio. So you're being quite, clear about what you're intending people to do here. So it does what it says on the tin. But can you just kind of give us an insight into what things you do in this program for anyone in the audience, maybe who's thinking of launching a similar kind of program for their audience? Again, what kind of things do you do in there that they could maybe replicate for their audience as well?
Good question. So yeah, I had a 45-day inner circle at the beginning of the year, after my New Year, New Money challenge. So the whole entire premise of running an inner circle or a mentorship is to service. In my case, you can either service consumers or whoever you like to service. But for my case, I served consumers who are looking for DIY opportunities, because you have a lot of people who want the financial education and they want to learn how to build a 6-figure portfolio, and they want to learn how to manage their money. And I tell them that it never replaces objective advice, but you have a ton of people in this day and age who DIY. They want to do it themselves. They are not opposed to having a financial advisor, but a lot of them don't feel like they're quite at that place yet where they should hire somebody. And as we know, it's not about whether or not we think that they need it. It's about, do they need it? Are they willing to pay for it? Right? Their willingness and ability. And so in the 45-day inner circle, I was taking them through pretty much everything that I do from top to bottom financial planning. So we met once a week and I gave them just a ton of game, a ton of sauce, as we call it. And they had a really good time. I had really good testimonials from it, a lot of wins. It's a lot to learn. I told them 45 days is obviously not long enough for me to teach you everything I've learned in 8 years, but I taught them a lot and they had a really good time, I think.
That's cool. That's like a kind of midway between fully DIY and with a financial planner. And I don't want to call it this, but it's almost like a bit of a hybrid thing where you're kind of giving people the tools that they need. I agree with you as well about the kind of move to DIY. It's an interesting one. This isn't in the script, by the way, but do you kind of see financial planning? It's a bit of a daunting question, but do you see like financial planning growing in significance in the future years, or do you see it kind of, I don't want to say disappearing, but certainly becoming less popular as more people like turn to DIY options?
I think that it's only going to increase in popularity. I think our consumption may change a little bit. I think that we do have a shift to more people who are DIY than we used to, just because of the access of the internet, right? And everything you need to learn. But I don't think that it's ever going to go anywhere. Why? Because it's only getting more complex. You throw in crypto into the space and staking and DeFi and all these things, right? Like it's only making the space more complicated. It's not getting less complicated. Like our old financial products, like they're still around, they're staples, even though we're getting new ones. I don't think that consumers will ever truly just do away with the financial planning world, right? I think they're only going to need it more and more as things get more complex.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with your crypto point there, by the way. It's like something I've spoke about on previous stuff that we've done, is the fact that like a lot of consumers and a lot of the kind of general public, a lot of them, not all of them, but the majority of them don't really understand traditional investing. And then when we introduce something which is quite complex, like crypto, for instance, like, trying to communicate that as an asset class is extremely difficult, because most people don't even understand where it comes from, what it does, what it is, how it can make you money or anything like that. And yet we're still in this lag of most people don't even understand what a fund is, or most people don't even understand the kind of different investments or shares and stuff that you can have out there anyway. So we kind of got this double pronged thing of, confusion. And I completely agree with you there that it's probably going to become more popular. Just on the program there, how did you kind of go around launching that? Like, was it fully, I'm assuming it was fully virtual, was it? That you did? Yeah. So kind of like, how was it setting it up for the first time and all those because what I'm trying to do here is for the people in the audience who are thinking of doing something similar, I'm just trying to portray to them whether it be useful for them to do it or not, and how much time it's going to take them to do as well.
Yeah, so I teach a lot of those strategies in my Success Accelerator because it can get as complex or as simple as you want it to be. Obviously, the more complex, the more opportunity to make more money. But you can set it up however you like. I did it on Zoom. So we just had a weekly meeting. I told them, I said, we could meet every single day, but meeting every single day isn't going to help you accomplish anything. So we would meet once a week and I would give them a homework assignment. And then I would reach out to them via like email or text a couple of times throughout the week, just to kind of keep them motivated and keep them going. But like a program it just depends on like what your goal is really, and depends on you as a service provider, how long your program is. Like for me, I probably wouldn't do a year-long program for consumers. That's not my goal. So my goal is kind of to kickstart people and to help them go to the next level, and then push them out of the nest to go do their thing. So you can structure it however you want to. I think that's one of the beautiful things about being in charge is you just get to make up the rules as you go.
Yeah, and also there's so many platforms out there to do this now. Like you mentioned Zoom there, for instance, but for the actual platform of where the content will be hosted and things like that, there's so many now achievable options out there and affordable options out there as well. Like you can literally run these kind of things from the comfort of your own home, not having to leave, and on a very, very affordable basis. And they can be really, really cool as well. So awesome. Let's move on a little bit. We're flying through these. You've also written a New York Times best-selling book, which I think you might be the first person we've released 162 episodes as we speak on this podcast. I think you might be the first person to have ever done that on our podcast. So congratulations.
Well, so it's a Sunday mention. So it's not like the big New York Times bestsellers, but it made their Sunday mention of like a best-selling book.
So don't downplay it. Because you might. That's a self-limiting belief. This is a New York Times best-selling book, and it's called "Money Planning and Positivity." Now, I'm fascinated by that title. Can you just take us firstly what the book is about from that title, but also actually no, I'll ask you that one first, and then we'll go on to the process of how you wrote it. So, talk us about what was in there and what you kind of talked about in the book.
Yeah, so I wrote the book Money Planning and Positivity because I think that people needed to hear from a financial advisor that just having money isn't going to make your life better. So I talk about the 4 pillars that you need to design this wealthy life that you want to live. And for me, it was really important to write that book in 2020 because I just, I had a lot of multi-million-dollar clients who were very unhappy during that time. It was a very pivotal moment for a lot of people. And so it's hard to ask your clients the question of just simple things like, what do you like? Who are you? And for you to be able to answer what you like and who you are without using your job title can be really difficult for a lot of people. And so a lot of people are just going through their life feeling unfulfilled. And that's not the goal here, right? Like that's not the goal. The goal is not to be this really, really cool financial planner, but then never spend any time with your family or kids. And then, look up at 65 and it's like, cool, you left them some money, but you didn't leave them the other part of generational wealth, which is love and quality time. And so when I wrote the book, Money Planning and Positivity, it really was just to reach out to people to say, hey, this is why you need to take control of your money, because in order to design a life that you want to live, you have to take control of your money. And I'm firsthand a person who experienced that. And I watched my family experience it when we lost everything that we had and foreclosed on our home. And so that is what the book is about and why I wrote it.
It's good. It's something we hear. I mean, like quite regularly actually, is the thing of like people who think that money is the destination, but then you realize that the journey is actually the destination, if that makes sense. Like getting there, the morning after, most people who, like, say for instance, when they, I don't know, when they do something that they've been working on for years and it leads to one night, the morning after, a lot of the time they feel depressed or they feel like empty because now the journey's gone, like there's nothing left for them to do. Whereas the enjoyable part was the journey of getting there. And it's the same thing with money. You know, you think that having $1 million or $2 million or whatever it is going to make you immediately happy overnight, when in reality, like you said, there's much more to life than what money can apply to it. Talk us through the process of writing it then. So you mentioned that you came at a really pivotal time in 2020. Had you always thought about writing a book, or did it just come to you like maybe one night and you just thought, you know what, I'm just going to sit down and type this out, and was it a bit different to that?
So I heard this saying, I don't know who said it first, but the saying is, what if you could accomplish your 10-year goals in 6 months? And I thought about that, and I had 10-year goals written out, and I was like, one of my 10-year goals was to be an author. And so I thought about it. Now, I didn't act within 6 months. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but COVID had hit probably about 8 months after I'd heard that. And so for me, I was actually on lockdown. I'd gotten COVID when we first locked down in 2020. And so I was quarantined in the house for 8 weeks by myself. And so I just learned how to write. I was like, all right, well, let me figure this out now, because I said I was going to accomplish this thing. So now I have learned, and I teach people how to write their books within 3 hours instead of taking 3 months and then trying to figure out, do I publish? Do I self-publish? Like, what do I do? So in my accelerator, I teach people how to write their book within 3 hours, get it all mocked up and done and published.
That's awesome, man. And so, again, I don't want to steal from your kind of your accelerator that you do, but if anyone in I mean, we do have people in the audience, I can pretty much guarantee, who will be thinking of writing a book, or maybe they've already written a book and they're on to the next one now. If anyone is listening to this and wants to write their book, what advice would you give? Like, what's your kind of pearl of wisdom that you would say to them about writing a book?
Do not make your first book about your life or your story. Don't do that. Unless you have some kind of a big book contract with like Oprah or somebody that wants you to write your book. Write your first book for a purpose, right? So I wrote Money Planning and Positivity to basically be my business card to new clients, right? So they know, like, okay, this is what I'm about. This is what you're going to experience, right? It's not just going to be a financial conversation, right? It's not all about numbers, but it's really genuinely about how you feel, right? So I had a client who, she had a job. She was making like 125, but she was super, super unhappy there. And 125 is a decent salary in the United States. And so she was not happy there. She was stressed, overworked. And so she started taking it out on me. She started taking it out on her spouse. And I was like, look, I just had an honest conversation with her. I said, look, you're not stressed out because of like, me or your husband. Like, it's none of that. It's actually your job that's stressing you out. You feel like you're overworked and underpaid. And that's the genuine problem here. And so within a week, she had gotten an offer for double what her current salary was, just from me telling her, hey, like, you need to go out and get a new job because it's eroding your entire life. And literally that's what happened. This was like a year and a half ago. She's still in that position. Now she's traveling the world and getting to do all the things that she wanted to do. And it was just from that simple conversation of me having that tough love with her, saying like, hey, it's not just about the money that you're making, but it's about the life that you want to live. Because her job that she was working, she was also getting benefits of getting to expunge her student loans, which is a big deal. But it was like, if you're going to be unhappy for another 4 years, which which one is worth it more to you, right? And so I can't make that decision for her, but I can make that recommendation. And so it helps having that book initially, because she was one of my clients that came in based on, my book in the beginning of like, hey, these are the conversations that we're having. So I would say write your first book for a purpose, or have like a vision of like the series of books that you want to write. Also, make sure that you don't use a publisher with your self-store if that's what you do in the beginning, because what happens is they then own your story. So it's really important that you just have a little bit of like guidance when you're doing this.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Actually, I think the biggest thing I've like got from people who've written books is like almost always, if you're writing your first book, you don't write it for profit. You use it as part of your marketing tool. Like you use it as part of your marketing strategy, and it's just a tool in there. Like you said, you use it as your business card. Great idea. But you can also use it as bits of content, right? Like you can take snippets out, you own that content. So you can take bits out of that book. You can use it on social media. You can use it in videos. You can use all sorts of different stuff. I think it's a great idea writing a book, to be honest. So that's awesome. Moving on quickly again then. So you're also a certified financial planner, or CFP. Technically, I'm supposed to say you've got the CFP designation, if I'm going to stay within trademark rules, of course. So if anyone is in the audience who is, again, I know that there'll be people in the audience who are thinking about doing the CFP or are currently doing the CFP, what advice would you give them?
To people who want to do it or are currently doing it?
Well, let's start with want to do it first, and then maybe if we get time, we'll move on to the currently doing it as well.
Do it. if you want to do it, do it. It really does increase your credibility. And in my perspective, I think that you should take any opportunity to better yourself. And you'll find there's actually a lot of people who went through the certified financial planner curriculum, but are not actually practicing certified financial planners. They just have the knowledge. So it's really key. There's actually a really big difference. I've compared myself to my colleagues who don't have CFPs, and there's a lot that you learn from it.
And for those who are thinking of, those who are going through it right now, any tips or advice to them? I mean, again, everyone's story is different, but what would you say to them?
I would just say stay focused, because there was a difference between me passing it on the first time and people I knew not passing it on the first time. And it took a lot of discipline. Like that test really tests you on your discipline, because you have to. So for me, it took me 14 months to do it, from like start to testing. On average, it takes people 4 to 5 years to do it. So the chances of you passing, the longer you drag it out, goes down. So the more focused you can stay in the beginning, stick to the curriculum, right? Stick to getting through everything within a year and taking that review course and taking that test. Like, it's going to be really, really paramount to your success.
That's great.
Just staying focused, staying disciplined.
That's really good. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, this next question is the first time I've ever asked this question, and I don't know why I chose to ask you it, but I think it's a pretty good question, to be fair. So if you think back to when you were just starting your career in finance, like in all the, I don't know, when was it, by the way, that I think you said it was it 8 or 9 years now since you've been in?
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the start, what you thought about what a financial advisor does. But what thing has really changed in your head, like a perspective or a preconception about financial planning? What has really changed in your head over the course of those 8 or 9 years since you started your career in financial planning?
I think that I have learned how much of financial planning really goes into what I was talking about earlier, which is the mindset of things, and understanding and accepting that, you are able to build wealth. I think that on the consumer side, that's the biggest thing that I've learned is like, hey, more people need to know that they can have access to this and that it's something that is really for them. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned, because I don't know if I thought that it just like fell into your lap. I'm not really sure, but I just knew from the beginning, like the person who lives in the big multi-million-dollar house, they always knew they were going to get there. A lot of times they didn't know how exactly they were going to get there, but they knew they were going to get there. And so I think that was one of the biggest things I learned just on the consumer side. On the planner side, I think I learned that we're always students, right? So things are always changing. Of course, the world is always changing. How we perceive money is actually changing. And so I think that that's the biggest thing I learned, is that you're never 100% going to know the answers to everything. Right. So it's like you will consistently keep learning, right? Or you need to be learning and just always growing.
Yeah, it's that's a good point, actually. That's something that I always come across as well, this kind of always learning mentality. Always learning is like pretty much like a lot of successful people have that mentality, but in financial planning it's literally true, because you are pretty much always studying. Like there's always one more exam to do. There's always one more qualification that you can do. CFP usually tends to be the kind of like the like gold standard that a lot of people do. But even if you do the CFP, there's still more that you can do. But that's not just in the UK, but that's also in the US. And thinking of that, you guys in the US tend to be, I usually say like maybe 5-10 years kind of ahead of us here in the UK in terms of the profession and the kind of technology that you guys have, but also the mentality and stuff like that you have. So what lessons do you think that the UK financial planners can learn from you guys in the US? And then we'll also flip that once you've answered that one, of things that you guys in the US can learn from us in the UK as well. What do you think?
It's a good question. And the truth is, I don't have an answer. I don't know enough about UK
The
versus
UK.
US, financial planners. Um, I don't know if you guys are making the full pivot, because I've been to Australia. So when I was in Australia, I studied more of how their financial system works, and they're on the fee only side. So I don't know enough about the UK to really compare the two. Is there something that you notice that's really different between UK and US planners?
Yeah, I mean, I guess certainly the fee only side. I mean, we're still kind of we don't have commission in the UK anymore. Well, we do for life insurance policies, but for like investments and pensions and things, we don't have commission, which is good. But we still have commission by proxy, if you want. Like we've still got like pretty much like it's all but commission in name. Like you take a percentage of a client's assets under management every year or something like that. And I think I agree. Like for what I see in the US, a lot of financial planning in the US seems to be moving more to like a kind of fixed fee model now, or a kind of subscription basis or something like that. So from my perspective, it's probably that, and also the technology that you guys have. Uh, you, I think you would probably agree, Jacqueline, that you're not perfect. Like the technology in the US is certainly far from perfect for financial planners, but a lot of the stuff that I see coming out of the US is really, really cool. And we're just waiting for it to come across to the UK, to be honest.
Okay, those are good points. Yeah, we have pretty solid technology here, honestly.
Mm,
That's another thing that I teach in my accelerator, is how to get all of your technologies to work together, because a lot of times you'll have like your CRM and you'll have your marketing over here, and then you have like your portfolio management over here, and it's like all these different pieces, and like how do you connect it together, because you
yeah.
need that in order to run your business solidly. So the technology piece is really cool, being able to have access to all these different things, but putting it all together so that it's working seamlessly is really key. But I do like that. Yeah, we are still very heavily commission based over here. Um, and so it's just an interesting space to be in. It's an interesting thing to watch. I've pretty much always been in the fee only or fee based kind of space, and so I've actually won a lot of clients based on others not being transparent. So I've had a lot of clients who will bring me their statements from, big banks or other planners, and that we literally cannot figure out what their fee is, right? Like even call up their advisor, like, hey, what are the fees that we're paying on this account? And they can't even tell you. So that is really a problem, honestly.
See, I mean, I'm not saying that is the prime reason, but when we think of the reputation of financial advice and financial planning out there, I think it's probably the same in the US as well. It's not great, to be honest. It's certainly not in the UK, and that is one of the reasons why. I mean, I'm all like, there's a difference between being transparent about your fees and talking about them too much. Like, I think you should definitely outline how much you're going to charge, but I don't think that you should talk about it all the time, because that just isn't valuable for consumers. But certainly, I mean, I think we've definitely got to let people know how much it costs, because there's nothing else out there in reality, no other professional services that you would look at and think, I don't know how much that costs, because they haven't put it out there. Like, there's hardly any professional services that exist. Maybe sometimes in law, sometimes in accountancy and things like that, but they're definitely better than us at being transparent with their fees.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, life and health insurance is still the largest revenue driver here in the States over
yeah.
any other industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously been around for a very long time. A lot of those insurance companies have been around. They told for over 80, 100 years. So it's something working in that field. But yeah, it's interesting to watch.
It is,
It,
yeah.
it can be really sad, honestly, for a lot of people. But I know nobody listening to this is part of that.
No, definitely not. And it's kind of on a related note. We ask everyone this question, because it gives some really interesting answers. Over the next 10 years or so, I mean, when I think back to what I wasn't in financial planning 10 years ago, and neither were you. But if you think about how much it's changed, even in the last 5 years, I would think you would probably agree it's definitely going forward, and it's going up, which is great. But what are you most excited to see in the world of financial planning in the next 10 years, the next decade? What are you most excited to see?
Good question. What am I most excited to see? I think Bezos said this really well. He was like, a lot of people will ask him what's going to change in the future, like what's going to change about Amazon, what's going to change about consumers. And he was like, you're asking the wrong question. He was like, you need to be asking me what's going to remain consistent, what's going to remain stable in my business. And he was like, customers are never going to say, hey, I don't want my package delivered in 2 days, I want it delivered in 10. He was like, we're never going backwards to that. People are never going to opt for less convenience. He was like, so they're always going to want convenience, right? They're always going to want delivery straight to their door. And so it's the same thing with financial planning. For me, I'm asking what's going to remain consistent, right? People are always going to need financial guidance no matter what. And like I said earlier, it's only getting more complicated, and you only have more people who want to DIY. And so I want to make sure that most financial planners have some way to service clients or people, prospects who come into their ecosystem. They have some way to capture their information and to get them to start paying them for information, right? You have to train people, you have to train your prospects to spend money. It just is what it is. And so I want to teach people how to do that, because you don't have to be online giving away all of your information for free. You can still get compensated for it. And so I think that providing financial guidance is something that is going to remain stable. And so I want to help more people figure out how to monetize that online.
That's good. We've never had that one before. And most people go for diversity. I mean, everyone pretty much wants more diversity in the financial planning profession. I think everyone would agree with that. And technology and things, but that's a useful one. That's really cool. Okay, so let's start to close things down a little bit. We always like to ask every single one of our guests for a book, and I've changed it quite recently to or a piece of content. So it could be, I always say, like a movie or like an album or something, I don't know, that has helped them in their career so far. What's really stood out for you? What's really helped you? And what have you consumed over the years?
A piece of content that was financial planning related.
Doesn't have to be financial planning related. Could be anything. A lot of people
Mm,
give kind of books or something like that that's really helped them change their mindset when it comes to being more productive or working or something like that.
yeah, so I really like the book Blue Ocean. Have you guys talked about that one?
I don't think so. That's the first time we've had that one, I think.
Okay, yeah. So Blue Ocean is a really good one. It talks about and it gives examples of companies who have created their own lane. So some of the problem with us building businesses and making money and all of this is, or even having successful podcasts, is we all sound the same. We're all just kind of like a mirror of each other. And it's like, oh, in the financial planning industry, you look this way, you talk this way, you dress this way, right? And then everybody sounds the same and they all look the same and nobody has their own voice in their own lane. And so Blue Ocean gives examples of businesses who were pioneers in their space and created something new and created what they call your own blue ocean. Because if you're not in the blue ocean, then you're in the Red Sea, which is you and everybody who looks alike doing the same thing, providing the same services. So what's your blue ocean? What do you provide differently? What's in your lane? What do people like about you? What gravitates them toward you? And so I think that's a really good book that everybody should read to just find their own voice and, find their own lane.
Fantastic. It's really good. First time we've ever had it recommended, and you've described it beautifully, and I want to read it now. So that's good.
Worth it. It's worth it.
You've been a good salesperson for that book, definitely. So I think we'll end it there, but I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Jacqueline, for coming on. I mean, it's really, really, really good to talk to you. We've been 40 minutes talking already. I mean, time just flies by when you're having fun. We do like to give the last word to our guests to say a big thank you for coming on the podcast. So can you tell our audience where to find you, how to connect with you, and leave us with some last words as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you're still here at the end, I appreciate you so much. And I just want to share my social media, which is Jacqueline Plans. I'm sure we'll link everything for you. And you can also join my Digital Advisor Success Accelerator. I'll have a link for you there, or of course, you can find it on my social media if you're just ready to take where you're at to the next level. I realized being an athlete, it was weird because I transitioned from being an athlete. I played college basketball and then into business or entrepreneurship. And for the first few years, I had like kind of some mentors, but nothing was official. And I always thought, like, oh, your career just grows, it'll be fine. But then I realized how much you really need a coach to grow in whatever you're trying to do. And so I created this board of directors for my life. Again, holistic views on things, right? So I have what I call a board of directors, right? So it's somebody for my spiritual, my therapist, my financial planner. Financial planners should have financial planners, right? My business coach, my mentor. And so I really want to encourage you guys to do the same, right? If you're serious about taking your business and taking your life to the next level, you need a coach, you need a mentor, you need a visionary, somebody who can see where you want to go. And so I'll leave all that information linked for you guys below so that you can have it. But I just want to leave you with a word of encouragement that you can do this. This is meant for you. There is space for you out there. You can create your blue ocean. Thanks so much for listening.
What a lovely way to finish. Thank you so much. So that was Jacqueline Schadeck from the United States. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find it, of course, because you're already listening to it, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and our website, which you can share with other people. And that is nextgenplanners.co.uk. On there, you'll find more information about the cool stuff that we do, all of our different programs, and of course, the community, which now has over 800 financial service heroes in there. And our conference, which is coming up in 2023, which is going to be even bigger than the ones we've done for the last 5 years. So it's going to be really, really cool. And of course, we are on social media, just like Jacqueline. So you can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, I can't promise that we'll be on TikTok, but I imagine we will be there eventually if I figure out how to actually get on there. But other than that, thank you so much to everyone. Oh, and the last thing is, of course, I always ask this, but if you could just leave us a rate and a review, that would be awesome. Just let us know what we're doing well. But again, thank you so much to Jacqueline for joining us on today's show. Thank you guys for listening, as always, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.